Joining me here again today at Kaylee's Corner. Super glad that you're here. So today I feel like is a little bit different. I had a vision that was definitely more for kind of me on a personal level, something that I was going through, and it has been a while, so I felt like as I was revisiting it, I thought maybe some other people might have been experiencing something similar, or maybe you have experienced something in the past and maybe it's coming back around. And it's more of kind of like a clarity word and vision and like some revelation. So I figured, I feel like God's really kind of encouraging me to share it. I'm going to try to like generalize things since it was very specific to some very specific areas in my life. So I'm gonna, try to share the generalized bigger picture for you guys, because I still think it has a really good point and a really good revelation and clarity behind it. But of course, I just want to be obedient to the Lord, and so I pray that He would take this to who needs it, and bring you the clarity that you're looking for, or the revelation that He's trying to get to you. But I pray that this would just kind of be like the start of that conversation with you, and that you would be able to take that back to the Lord, and that He would be able to give you your personal insight and just give you, that revelation very specifically to you and your situation and your scenario, whatever that might be looking like. So I'm just gonna, I guess, go ahead and try to share the idea of it and what I took away from it, how it worked, and how, the advice that God was giving me through it. But I pray that you would take it back to the Lord and see maybe how He's using it for you in your life. So in this vision, at the time, I guess I was kind of starting something new, and I felt like it was very, very overwhelming. It was a ton of new information, a kind of a whole new world, a whole new field of like my career that I really didn't feel like I knew anything about. So I was trying to take in a lot of information, and so I was feeling really overwhelmed with this. And so in this vision, I saw like this big, huge mountain with like a big peak, a big mountaintop that I was walking towards. And so as I was walking towards it, I could tell I was doing it. I was taking one step at a time, and I was being very diligent and like very obedient, like, okay, just take the next step, just do the next thing. But as I was getting closer and closer to the big mountain in front of me, I was getting way more intimidated, and it just felt like this feels impossible. First off, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this. Am I supposed to climb it? Am I supposed to go around it? Am I supposed to, like spiral my way up it? Like, what am I supposed to do? This is absolutely overwhelming. But I knew I just needed to keep taking those steps forward. So that's what I did. I just kept taking one step at a time, and I was getting closer and closer to like the base of the mountain. But the peak, obviously is like massive now, because I was practically right underneath of it. And so it was really interesting, because I felt like as I was about to step onto the mountain, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna start climbing it, I guess, we're gonna take out this mountain. And it was really interesting, because I was like really getting myself worked up, and I was like, you just gotta do this. You're just gonna have to be tough, and you're gonna have to be strong, and you're just gonna have to commit, and we're just gonna do it, and it's gonna be okay. And it was like, as soon as I started to take that last step that was gonna put me on the base of the mountain, all of a sudden it was like the whole thing like deflated, and it was, I don't even know how to explain it. It was kind of like maybe from a different perspective. The big massive peak of the mountain that I could see no longer was there, but it was like someone had like picked up the entire landscape, not just the mountain or just the top of the mountain. It was like they picked up the entire landscape. All of the trees were gone, all of the rocks were gone, everything was gone, and I was just standing at this base of just brown barrenness, just like, kind of like the inside of a box, I guess, is kind of what it felt like. There was no texture, there was no living anything. It felt really fake is what it was. And so as the vision kind of continued on, I saw like what had been the mountain was just this like big paper cardboard cutout of this peak, and then there was like this tablecloth more or less that had been laid on top of it that made it look like it was a mountain. And so it looked like it had, you know, all of the different parts that made it look like a mountain. It had trees and grass and rocks and all these different things, but when you took that off, there was nothing to it. And so like I could see what was the mountain. It's more or less like a tablecloth. It was just kind of sitting on the ground, and I was like, I could just kind of feel all the anxiety leave. And so I really felt like kind of how God was describing it to me was that it's kind of like a twofold, like a two-part thing. Is first off, like the parts that I was really, really scared of or really nervous about and felt really overwhelmed with and was really anxious about, I didn't need to feel any of those things, because first off, like, he knew it's not going to be as big of a deal as I thought it was. It had no weight. It wasn't even really real. And so I think he kind of like deflated that anxiety and deflated the power and the authority that I had been giving this mountain of influence, I guess, that was scaring me. It wasn't even real. It was built on lies. It was built out of like cardboard. It wasn't like a good, strong, firm foundation or something. It was really kind of crummy, and it wasn't going to withstand anything. And so I felt like he was kind of revealing that to me, that like what felt really overwhelming and what felt like I was going to be defeated and I wasn't ever going to be able to like actually accomplish this thing was complete lie, and it was a complete like fake scenario, and it wasn't my reality. And that's, I think, kind of how he was showing me, like, this is not real. Like, you have built this up way more in your mind, and it's not actually real. But obviously, when we're in our feelings and when we're doing something new, it feels really big. It feels really overwhelming. And so I think then, like, kind of the second part of that was he was explaining to me and showing me that what it was built out of wasn't really nothing. It was kind of like a house of cards, you know, like a house of cards is very easily pushed over and it falls down, and it can't withstand anything. And so that was, I think, kind of the secondary part of it, was he was trying to show me and explain to me that I was putting a lot of pressure on myself to, you know, conquer this mountain first off, which I didn't need to do, as long as I, you know, trusted in God and I followed more or less the protocol and like the ideas and the path that he had given me. I recognized all of this was fake, so I didn't even need to be worried about it, and that the mountain itself was not even real. How it was built on lies. And so the fact that I was putting so much pressure on myself to like succeed in this area and to succeed on this level, wasn't what God was telling me to do, and B, was kind of taking me away from what he was calling me to do, because I was putting my faith, I was putting my trust, more or less by being afraid of this thing, I was putting my faith in this thing, which really had no sustenance. It had no authority, it had no power, it had no weight behind it. And so I felt like it was kind of, you know, him reminding me, you know, seek first his kingdom and he will give you all of the desires of your heart. And so I, you know, had stepped out of his strength, stepped out of God's strength and his authority and his power, and I was trying to do it on my own, out of my own strength and out of my own authority and my own power and my own mind, my own wisdom. And that's why it felt so big and so overwhelming. And so for him to kind of reveal it to me that first off, it's not as big as you think it was, and it's not even something that you should be desiring to have on that level where I was like actually making myself sick and feeling so overwhelmed with it, is because it was built on lies. There was pieces of it that he was leading me towards so I could, you know, glean from it and learn some skills and learn some new things, but the actual thing itself was lies, and it wasn't created with him or with him in mind. And so obviously he could use it to help us and to help me, but I was giving it way too much power, I was giving it way too much authority. And so I think it was, you know, just a really good reminder of what are you putting your faith in those situations and in those scenarios where you are feeling really small and you are feeling like, I don't know how I'm going to accomplish these things. Really just remember who God is, what he has called you to do. Take each one of those steps that he's calling you to do, and he's going to remove that mountain for you. And also to be really diligent about your heart and what are you looking towards? Are you looking towards God, that he's got this for you? Or are you stepping out of that and stepping into yourself and saying, I have to do this, and now I've put so much faith in this man-made thing that when it crumbles, it takes you down with it. So yeah, I just pray that, you know, this brings you some clarity, or at least opens the conversation for you and God, what this might look like for you. And until I see you again next time, bye.